A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to immediately rehire tens of thousands of employees at federal agencies. The probationary employees were fired last month as part of the administration's effort to shrink the federal workforce. Joining us now is CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarland. Scott, thanks for being with us. I want to start by asking about these judges that are reversing these firings and executive orders, and yet we're still hearing about layoffs. So what are you hearing about any leveling off or what happens next?
Yeah, a lot happening at once. It's easy to get disoriented, but it was a big loss in court for the Trump administration as the afternoon began. A judge in California ruled all those probationary workers, the new workers who were fired, should be reinstated at 6 major agencies, including the big ones: the Defense Department, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, the U.S. Department of Energy. The judge ruled those firings were unlawful, but the firings and the demotions and the downsizing continues. We saw it earlier this week at the Department of Education. And I'll note this, as there's this push to get workers back on the job reinstated or to slow the layoffs at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, Senator Tammy Duckworth introducing a bill that would help force the issue there to get veterans either back on the job or to keep their jobs. There are some real concerns that these layoffs at the VA could impact not just the medical center in Chicago, but all the community-based clinics. There are many of them throughout the region.
Right, a lot of people here watching that. We'll stay on top of it. With all this playing out, at the same time, we're hearing the tick of the clock as we get closer to a government shutdown. Are we any closer to an agreement?
Oh, we're flirting with danger again, aren't we? This is like procrastinating college students, where this is going to go to the last minute tomorrow. There's a possibility of an impasse. There's a possibility that they don't get the 60 votes they need in the U.S. Senate, which means a whole bunch of Democrats have to join Republicans here. There are negotiations going on, and Senator Durbin has argued the Republicans have not included Illinois Democrats or really any Democrats in part of these talks, and that's really the issue there. A government shutdown atop what's happening now does have the impact on the markets, on the economy, and it could be yet another hurdle for our local federal workers who've really been through it over the last few weeks already.
Boy, have they. And speaking of the markets, we know they've been a mess this week. What do we think? Is it the trade war that's really impacting this most? I know the president pays a lot of attention to the market. And do we think at this point it's safe to say that the talk about the trade war is doing more harm than good when it comes to everybody's 401ks?
I think the president's critics, including the local Democrats who have been trying to counterpunch here, say it's the tariff threat that causes the uncertainty and the instability that leads the market to get the jitters, not just on how it impacts the auto industry, manufacturing industry, especially with the tariffs with Canada, but it's just the general not knowing that is causing this week's hailstorm on Wall Street and ultimately could impact the economy if it continues over the coming weeks and months.
CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarland. Scott, always great to talk to you.